Three. Hello and welcome to another edition of C Squared Podcast. This is your host Curtis with my co-host Aaliyah, and we are here with our guest host, Mr. Kevin Stewart Panko of Decibel Magazine, Metal Injection, Zero Tolerance, and a zillion other different places.
I thought it was guest co-host.
Oh, sorry, guest co-host.
You said guest host.
Oh, did I? Oh.
I don't want to.
Guest host is right.
Guest host.
I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I don't want to
possible.
step on anyone's toes over here. You know
Well,
what I mean?
you're a host of some sort. So, anyways, we're going to be talking about year-end lists tonight. Kevin's been doing this for 25 years, and he's going to talk to us about, are they good, are they bad? How do you get on a year-end list? This is a common question that bands ask us. I'm sure Aaliyah has probably wondered the same thing for her own band at times. So we're just going to start. And Aaliyah, you want to begin the discussion, please?
Sure. Well, we could start off just by diving right into the question that we're going to get most often from our clientele. And that is, how can bands who maybe release their albums earlier on in the year remind journalists about their album as the year comes to a close? What's the best way to do that? That's not annoying.
Okay. I mean, sorry, the best way to remind people that, so the best way to get, this is
more front of mind again.
This is like an obvious answer to this question, sort of like the first part of the question. The best way to get on any year-end list is just write a really fucking good record. But I think when you brought this up to me a couple minutes ago, you said if this is a thing, and it is a thing. So certain PR companies, what they seem to do, and depending on whether they are print focused or web focused, or depending on who they're sort of targeting. The thing about year-end lists in magazines is that they get done in October.
Yep.
Which kind of disqualifies a lot of good stuff that happens to come out the last, 2.5 months of the year. Which I've always thought kind of sucks. But I mean, what do you
Back up though. But you guys still get the promos for November and like September and August, so that doesn't necessarily mean jack, does it?
Well, that's true. I mean, well, okay. I should qualify that by saying I do. I don't know. Like, I've noticed that there's also like a weird rollout of who gets what. Like, I get a lot of VIP, advance, whatever, like a promo that comes onto my radar like 3 months before release date or 3 or 4 months before release date. I don't think that's very common.
Nope. It's not.
So there you go. So that's why I'm saying, it does disqualify some records at least, whatever. So what happens is that a lot of places will send you or send me and my colleagues like year-end recaps. So it'll be like, hey, this is what we put out this year, or this is our, remember what we did in January, February, March, April, whatever. And I mean, that's sort of, I guess, is supposed to, put stuff back on radars if they've been forgotten. I personally, I don't know how people do this stuff. I don't have like a spreadsheet, but I also have I wish I had it here somewhere. I got a little notebook somewhere here that at the beginning of every year, I just, jot down things that are awesome, regardless of when they come out that point of the year. And then whenever someone asks me for a best or a year-end list, I just go to that bunch of scrap paper and I make the list out of all the stuff that is on that. So for me, like I said, in trying to get on a list, it basically, from my perspective, is like, write a good fucking record and I'll take note of that whenever it comes out or whenever I get the promo. And when it comes to time for me to put together a list, it'll be in front of me. I don't know how other people do it. I do understand that stuff does get forgotten, and I know that that's a sort of a big deal, or maybe it used to be. I don't know if it is much anymore. The new Obituary album, which is going to be fucking huge because it's fucking awesome, which I've heard for like the last, I've had like a VIP whatever thing for the last almost a month. That comes out in early January. I don't think they're, if they're doing that, I don't really think they're concerned about year-end list, or at least it wasn't like a top of list consideration. I have heard of it being on a list of consideration for release dates and stuff, but I don't know. I mean, I don't, sometimes I just don't get the music industry. I don't understand why people would pull out or pull back on releases at the end of the year when it's Christmas time. Like, you would buy records for people, instead of, buying, I don't know, clothes for them, socks and underwear. I don't know. Go buy them a CD or a record instead of, I don't know.
So
yeah,
I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
No, it's okay. We're going on a little tangent. Curtis,
yes,
what
of course,
your...
it's me.
Well, I kind of want to know, okay, because to me, I don't know, part of the reason why I've never done those type of emails, and maybe I could be completely dumb in my thinking here, and Corinne might even think I'm an idiot for saying this, but I always kind of figure, like, you guys should already know if you like the album or not, and like me reminding you is kind of dumb.
Yes, in some ways, maybe, but in other ways, there are people who do this. Well, okay, most people, I'd say about 99% of people do this less than full time.
True.
Most people either don't have it in them, don't have the time, whatever, to do it the way I do it, because this is kind of what I sort of do for a living. So this is the way I just happen to do it. I've kind of always done it.
But are you really going to forget an album that you loved from the past 12 months? Like, really?
Well,
maybe you will.
Well, when you're me and you get 200 records sent to you a day.
True.
I forgot a lot of, I forgot what I listened to like 9 o'clock this morning, dude. I don't know.
This is funny because right before the call, I was telling Aaliyah about how you have a great memory and you remembered Adam from the Wardens from a 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I remember. Like, no, I mean, you know what it's like.
I do.
It's like this. So think of this. Think of how many times you've been, championing whatever over the course of however long a period of time.
Yep.
You get put on the spot one day by some guy, girl, whatever, record store employee who says, "Hey, so what have you been listening to? That's awesome," and you can't remember.
Yep. True.
Brain freeze every single time for me. And that, true. I mean, I don't know. I mean, unless I'm wearing the shirt of the band that I like, and I just so happens to put out a record this year, I'll be like, well, other than these guys, I don't know what to tell you, man. So
I get it.
Stretch that over the course of 12 months. And also, with stuff being, okay, sorry, with the print list being done in October, sometimes you got to like go back and double check. Did this actually come out in December, January?
True.
So sometimes people need to be reminded of when things actually happened. And you
True.
Throw 2 years of COVID in there and everything's in a time shift. And
we're all in a time warp right now.
Exactly.
Did that come out this year, last year, 3 years ago? We don't even know.
Well, you just brought up a good point, Kevin, because it's going to be different for print and for online, because I've actually seen print guys that write for both print and online have different lists, depending, like if it comes out in December, if their first list comes out in print in November or whatever, then later.
Absolutely.
So how many end of year lists do you currently do? You just do the one for Metal Injection, or what do you do?
I do decibels.
Oh, you do decibel? Okay.
I do one for Metal Hammer. I will do one for Zero Tolerance.
Okay.
I haven't done it yet, but theirs is, because of their like magazine release schedule, theirs comes closer to the end of the year, and actually their year-end list doesn't come out until the beginning of next year. It's kind of weird, but
no, makes sense.
And I get asked every year to do Metal Injections and stuff like that, but I kind of never do, because
I thought you did, and then I realized after I said it, no, he hasn't.
In the past, I mean, in a long time.
Like,
I put a different spin on it, where the one year that I think the last year that they asked me to do it, or the last year that I actually did do it, I basically set out a list of records I reviewed on the site and just basically put links to the reviews and go, if you want to read what I said about them and how good
That's awesome,
how good they are to me, here, just go read these reviews, or links to other sites that I reviewed the records at or whatever. Just to do a different, a different little take on things, and be lazy.
So that was my next question about being lazy on these. So obviously, well, how do you okay, so if you're doing 4 year-end lists every year, 3 or whatever it was, I think you said 4,
at least 3, sometimes 4, yeah.
So I would assume that those publications do not want you to regurgitate the same article time after time after time. So how does one come up with a unique year-end list for each publication, or do you not do that and just it's the same?
No, okay, no. I think you've got it. You're talking individual lists. So what happens at a place like Decibel, a place like Metal Hammer, what happens is that everybody submits their lists to the editor. You rank them in order. So like, say they're asking for 20 records.
Yeah.
So your number 1 record gets 20 points. Your number 2 record gets 19 points. Your number 3 record gets 18 points. Down to 1 point for the 20th record. Everybody's list gets submitted. They tabulate the votes based on that. And that's how they come up with what the consensus number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, et cetera records are.
You're talking consensus list. I thought you were meaning an individual one you're doing.
Okay. Well, cool. No. So my individual list obviously doesn't change.
Yeah. Okay.
So I send that individual. I mean, depending on certain, sometimes it gets frustrating because certain magazines or certain websites will have little parameters that they want. Like certain places will be like, well, we kind of want it limited to only the records that we actually featured or wrote about or reviewed this particular year.
That would be tough.
Granted, it's still like, however many thousands of records, but sometimes, it's like I think the mentality or the idea is to prevent your vote from being thrown away in some ways.
Yeah, I get it.
So sometimes you kind of have to go, oh, well, half this list is obscurities or whatever. So I have to go back and figure out whatever they want.
Oh, right. And they probably want to relink to all of the articles as well for that internal clicking and cycling through their website.
Right. Or like, if it's a magazine that's like, okay, well, why are we championing something that never got mentioned in the magazine like the previous 11 months of the year kind of thing. So I kind of understand it, but at the same time, it's like, it's like I said, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass when you kind of have to go back and alter my list. But anyway, for the most part, my individual list doesn't change. Decibel wouldn't print our individual lists. I don't think Metal Hammer prints their individual lists. I was
sure Decibel had at one point, but
I know Zero Tolerance does. So you can, if you wanted to be a real pedantic nerd about it, you could go through everybody's list, do the tabulations yourself, and see if they're actually telling you the truth as to what the actual Zero Tolerance consensus list is. Mm-hmm. I mean, hey, if you have nothing better to do, go, be my guest. What else?
I have a question, Kevin, while you're thinking about that, and hopefully I totally don't lead you off your train of thought here. So one common question, and you may not know this because you were just a writer and you're not part of the editorial board, but how much does influence from labels count towards this? Because I have had bands try to claim to me the only reason why certain bands are at the top of the list every year is because of ad money. And I wanted to hear your take on that.
It's not ad money. Okay. What it is, well, I mean, one, it goes back to good records. Two, one thing that gives PR or labels advantages is the fact that, so say for example, I don't know how many people write a Decibel these days, but let's say 30 people, right? A PR company with a more oomph to them, or a bigger label or whatever, has the ability to get their stuff to all those people and make sure that all those people have, the new Machine Head record and the new Soulfly record and the new fucking is it out yet? Immortal record and the new whatever, you know what I mean? Like everything that's coming out, they have the full-time staff to basically put it out there, make sure everybody gets it, but also make sure there's follow-ups and all that kind of stuff. A smaller firm or a band just working on their own, I can't imagine they would have the same clout or the same ability to reach those same people. And it's, you know, stuff falls through the cracks too. Like every year on every list I see, there are records I have never even heard of, even on Decibel's list. So it's not that, you know, being a small label and being a sort of having limited resources doesn't automatically preclude you from making a list.
Yeah.
It's just when you have a consensus list like that, you need to make sure your stuff gets to the people who are making up that list.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not about
Yeah.
money. It's not about ad dollars. I mean, I guess in a way it is about money because you have a full-time staff who's doing it, but it's not about buying onto a list. It's not about anything like that. You know, I mean, look at last year. So I think, you know, if you talk to Albert Mudrian from Decibel Magazine,
mm-hmm.
you know, he's got a lifelong affinity for At the Gates. I don't think At the Gates record even made the top 40 last year's list.
I am looking at their list as you speak right now, but anyways, go ahead.
Is it on there?
I don't see it.
So there you go. I mean, if there was like a hardcore bias in there, and you know, Albert being like the sentinel, the gatekeeper, the grand poobah, At the Gates would have probably been on there. You know what I mean? Just because, and he's friends with all those dudes, and he knows, and he's got a history of all that. So, you know, the stuff that you think is probably at work and you know, in the metal scene dark state isn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, you could even see it just looking at what Decibel had last year, because I forgot, like Lamp of Murmur is number 8 and they were self-released. Like
never heard that band.
Yeah, there you go.
Never heard that band. I have no idea who they are. I know the name.
Yeah, they're like a hipster black metal band, but I mean, like I don't think they had PR, they had nothing. So, but at the same time, the first 3 was Carcass, Chemist, and Tribulation, all on major labels.
Well, so, I mean, that Carcass record, come on.
Yeah. But what you're saying, what I'm saying is you're saying is true, because like they would, you know, Nuclear Blast could make sure all the writers have the stuff.
And, you know, let's kind of like, let's be a little bit honest here. I mean, bigger labels do put out higher quality, like
as a rule.
Yeah, it's like there's a reason these bands are signed to these labels. It's not because you know, their parents paid for them to be on the label.
Exactly.
No, right.
They wrote good enough music that the label signed them.
No, exactly.
They had other metrics. You know, there's a lot of metrics that go into it, and people just want to feel. Sometimes bands don't want to feel like they did anything, and maybe they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong necessarily. It's just they feel disenfranchised because they're not represented in these ways. But just understanding how much goes into this, that's not corruption. Like you said, it's not like the deep state of metal, you know, business or whatever. It's just part of the nature of getting your name out there. Brand recognition matters, but there are ways to do it that don't involve money, and it's complicated.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And you also have to remember that, you know, I don't want to use the word competing, but I'm going to use the word, like, you're competing against however many thousands of records that come out a year.
Right. When it comes to
label releases and self-releases, you know what I mean? Like there is like countless amounts of stuff out there, good and bad, that we will, like, 3 of us as a, like, you know, going off into our own musical little directions and worlds, probably will still never hear. Like there will be no overlap that will you know, that'll involve, or that will, like, you know, bring together like the however many thousands of bands that we're never going to hear, the 3 of us. So
yeah,
I mean, take that as a grain of salt too. I mean, yeah, like, yeah, there's a reason a lot of people have heard of Carcass, because 1, they're good, 2, they've been around forever, 3, you know, they're consistent, blah 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 blah. You know.
Yeah. So I guess even one relevant question we could ask is, like, how important is it for a band, for an independent band, to get on an end of year list? Like, how much importance should a band assign to that sort of accomplishment?
I don't know. I mean, I know people who are really into lists, who are big on like just, find a list, check out everything that they haven't heard.
Yep.
Bitch about the stuff that's not on it, bitch about the ordering, the placement.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Complain about like just anything you could possibly imagine complaining about. And that's cool. I don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah, whatever floats your boat, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big, I mean, if something stands out, in my case, it's more like, oh, something's on this list that I got sent and just never actually got around to listening to or didn't think I would like. I'll go back and check that out. I don't care if it's like, oh, it's in spot 17 when it should be in spot 14. God damn it. Fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess when you get older, you stop caring about like the minutia. But hey, I mean, we were all there at one point when I remember being a real little ankle biter about lists back in the day. And remember Kerrang magazine used to have, I don't know if they still do it, where they would have not only, the best album of the year, the best song, the best, but like best drummer, best bass player, best rhythm guitar, best lead guitar, best cover art, best, whatever. And I used to like split hairs over that shit when I was like 14 years old. You know what I mean? So there you go. I mean, some people are into it, some people aren't.
I'm going to give my opinion on it is I don't think it's that big of a deal most of the time, unless it's like a big magazine or site. And I mean, honestly, we have mainly independent bands right now. I mean, we've got a couple of labels, but for most independent bands, like we already said, they're not going to get on it just because, like Kevin said, the labels have the staff. The labels, it's just highly unlikely that an independent band is going to get on it unless you're Lamp of Murmur, like we just said. But out of 40 or 50 albums or whatever it was, I saw like one or two independent bands on that entire list. And that's Decibel, which is the underground magazine of all underground magazines.
Yes.
So
that's also the magazine that hears between like, the however many writers and people on the masthead. That's the group of people who hear, like like I was talking about, as a collective, hear infinitely more music than one person at home could consume on their own, kind of thing. So
exactly. And they also, I mean, like mainly, granted, it's not like major labels. Mainly, just as an aside, like the first 3 albums were from Nuclear Blast. Granted, 4th was from Metal Blade, but the rest were like Profound Lore, Sargent House, which are still pretty well known labels, but they're small.
Right. And I mean, well, yeah. I mean, I haven't. Is that last year's list you're talking about?
Yeah, this is 2021. Okay. I'm looking at right
now. Yeah. I mean, that's the way it is, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So,
I mean, okay. Sorry. From your perspective or your point of view, and the bands that you work with and talk to.
Yeah.
Is there? I don't know if this question has kind of been answered or sort of like discussed in passing so far, but is there a huge concern about getting on a list, getting that visibility? Or, I mean, but also, is there a sense of disappointment when it's like, well, why is Carcass number 1 and we're nowhere to be found? Which in my mind, well, the answer is fucking obvious.
do you want the rant answer, or do you want the nice answer?
I don't know. You're the PR guy, man. I mean, I kind of want to know. I mean, I didn't even know that this was a thing until you guys mentioned this is a topic. So
this is the thing. Aaliyah, should I give the rant answer or should I give the professional answer?
Can you give us like a hybrid of them?
Do your clients want to hear the rant answer?
Well, we don't get this much anymore. I just want to say this as a beginning. We have had people ask about year-end lists. I usually tell them basically what you said, the label thing. You pretty much said verbatim what I've been thinking anyways. They have a very small chance of getting on it if they're an independent band, but if they were on like a label, like let's say one of the labels we work with, that might be a totally different story. So we won't even touch those. But I basically go like, okay, so if you want to make a year-end list, you should probably release before September, because like you said, print, blah blah blah. But I mean, like, again, like I say, if you're an independent band, it's not likely to happen. I would be I always tell people that they should try to get not worry so much about being on a year-end list or being worried about critical acclaim as having certain writers really champion them. Like there are writers who people listen to, like who have a large Twitter following, who have a large Facebook following, that type of thing, Instagram following, who I think it's better to get known by those people versus, like what you're saying. Like Dom Lawson is a great example. I don't know if you know Dom from Metal Hammer.
Yeah.
Like if a band gets featured on his Instagram page, even if he doesn't review them, there's a lot of people that look at his fucking Instagram page and they go, well, Dom liked that one. I'm into it. I like, if I get a band, like if Dom features one of our bands, which he does a lot of the times, he doesn't always necessarily write about them, but he'll like post about it, really like this band type of thing. They get more streams, they get people checking them out. Like I would prefer that over like getting, I'm not going to name any magazine names because if anybody's listening to this, but getting like, necessarily a print magazine, putting them on a year-end list from one of their writers, if that makes sense. So.
Okay. And yeah. I mean, sorry, were you going to say something, Leah?
No, that's just basically it. Like if you get, like, to me, if you get someone with a large social media following, a writer,
mm-hmm.
I think that's more powerful than the year-end list from an individual person, if that makes sense.
Right.
I was just going to say it probably depends on like your target audience.
It does.
So like if you're a band that tends to appeal to an older generation, getting in a print magazine is going to be more appealing and maybe more helpful to you than a digital representation would be, just because a lot of people still read print magazines that are older and they collect them. And it's like, so it kind of depends.
It does, but let's hear your viewpoint, Kevin. You look like you wanted to ask me a question on it.
No, I was going to say two things about that. I was going to say, well, firstly, you mentioned Dom Lawson. So, if you ever get a chance to talk to Dom Lawson, mention Oaf. Bring up Oaf.
His band.
Yeah,
they fucking rule.
I've never heard Oaf, but he brought him up actually.
That one record they put out is fucking awesome.
I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah, dude, check it out. Anyway, and the second thing I think is also that I'm looking over to see if I can get the Oaf album out, if I can see it.
I'm instant messaging him right now, Instagram messaging him right now to say, send me your album. Kevin says it's great.
It's awesome, dude. What was I going to say? Oh, I don't know. Getting on a year-end list. Okay, so there are lots of year-end lists out there. I mean, I'm going to imagine that, most websites will have year-end lists. The magazines have their year-end lists. Take some solace in the fact that there's probably a better chance that you will get on a year-end list from a smaller, more sort of,
niche, maybe.
Niche, yeah, niche is a niche one, or just someone, for whatever reason, like they're shying away, more underground than thou kind of people, whatever it is. But there's a better chance that you might get on a list for a smaller website or a more, like you say, niche website, whatever.
Yep.
Don't go hanging yourselves in the rafters because you didn't make Decibel's top 10, because everything that we've talked about in the previous 20 minutes or whatever, 30 minutes. I don't know.
You were just saying like this is like, be realistic about it. I still don't feel like I quite got my question answered from the top of the episode, which is, is there anything that bands individually can do to bring their album top of mind towards the end of the year? Should they like try to publish a music video? Should they just be like, happy so many month anniversary to our album on social media? Is there anything you can think of that bands can do to sort of bring their album top of mind again to journalists? Or is it kind of just a lost cause?
No. I mean, you can send out and this happens a lot. Like I said earlier, when you originally asked the question, I said that PR companies will do that. They'll do like year-end recaps.
Yeah, you mentioned
There's nothing wrong with a band, doing that as well. I mean, they can either, it can either say, we put this out, whatever, please don't forget about it at the end of the year. Or you can like actually do our band's year-end recap. This is what we did in January. This is what we did in February. This is what we did in March. This is what we did in April. We broke up in May. Fuck off. I don't know, but no, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, at the very least, or someone will see that and click on it and go, oh, that's that's interesting. I've never seen that before. Or I've never heard of you. Let me check you out now, or let me go back and check you out. I never listened to the record the first time, or whatever. At the worst, what's going to happen? Someone's just going to delete the email and trash it. Like, big fucking deal. You didn't, whatever. Yeah, no. Good idea. I personally don't have a problem with anyone doing that. It makes sense if that's what if that's what your goal is, to bring what do you call it? Bring stuff back around.
Right, back to top of mind.
Yeah.
Cool.
May I ask a question? So, Kevin, I don't think you actually answered this part either. So I just want to make.
Apparently, I haven't answered a single question yet.
It's been entertaining though, and it has been a good conversation. But I don't think you actually answered this.
What's that?
If someone releases an album, let's say in August or September, do they have a better chance of landing on your list than someone that released, for example, in February, March, or January?
My list? No.
Well, just in general. Sorry, a list in general that you've been doing this for a long time.
I mean, like I said, I don't know how other people do it, how other people keep track of things. I know I've seen some pretty crazy things like during the pandemic, when I had more time to just fart around online, about people talking about how I always found this kind of like really similar to what I used to do as a kid, listening to the radio with my own little homemade charts about about songs I would hear, and I'd like, how many times a week did I hear this song, and I make my own little chart about blah.
That's incredible.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, I was also like 7 years old, so cut me some slack. There are dudes out there, dudes and dudettes, who aren't writers, aren't reviewers, aren't whatever, but they still are maintaining spreadsheets of the records they've bought or downloaded or whatever, streamed, and they have their own little coding system and their own
I've seen whatever some people in Discords that I'm part of.
Yes, sure. Whatever classification scheme they use. So there are people out there who do this stuff, and so I don't think that I don't know, maybe that's maybe a bit of an extreme example, but I don't think that just because something comes out closer to that sort of print year-end deadline thing, that a lot of people are like, well, it's automatically better because it came out closer to, or it's automatically more in my. I mean, I think in some ways, you putting something out closer to that deadline, you run the risk of not having someone be able to sit down with it over the course of time and absorb it and just sort of say, okay, I mean, this actually is a grower, or this is a record that has a sustained impact, as opposed to, yeah, I listened to it once, it was cool, but I kind of got distracted with everything else, and then it didn't make my list because I had other stuff to do, or other shit to worry about or take care of.
Really good.
I mean, that's happened before. It's happened to me.
Do you guys want to hear something funny? While Kevin was talking, I looked at what the dates were that the top 10 of Decibel's last year's albums, when they released, all were in October, September, and November, except for one. Believe it or not.
Sorry, say that again.
On the quick Google, while you were talking, I went to go check to see the 10 albums that were top 10 albums for Decibel's list last year. Believe it or not, from what I can tell, all but one were released in September, October, or November. Believe it or not. I know.
Okay, that's not an exact like.
No, but it was funny though.
Okay.
No, but it's funny because we all agree that shouldn't be the case. But then I just looked and I was like, that's the fucking case.
But also like bands that are on major labels that are more well recognized are also more likely to release later in the year. Is that
I agree.
That's probably
so. The very same reasons that they are more likely to be on the list are the same reasons why they are going to release later in the year.
All right, let's do another experiment, Curtis.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
What are the top 10 records from 2021? I just called up my list.
Sure.
And I will tell you how many of those
I'm almost willing to bet it's only 2 or 3. Knowing you, I'm betting it's only 2 or 3. But I'll tell you what they are. Carcass.
All right.
Carcass, we all know you're going to say Carcass.
Yeah, that's it.
Chemist, I'm not sure about.
No.
Okay, Tribulation?
No.
Didn't think so. Apparition?
Don't even know who that is.
Me too. I have no clue. Panopticon, I doubt you're into.
No, but I like their Kentucky record.
Fair. You said you didn't know who Hooded Menace was.
No, Hooded Menace. I love Hooded Menace.
Oh, not Hooded Menace. Lamp of Murder. I mean, Murmur.
Oh, Lamp. No.
Hooded Menace. Okay, so
yeah, they're
Menace.
On there.
Okay,
yeah.
Converge. I'm assuming is.
You know what? And this is a prime example of what we were just talking about before. I never actually got around to listening to that record until like long after its release date.
Wow.
Because whoever put it out, I just never got a promo. And I guess, just with life and stuff, I just never got around to it. And so it's not on my list from 2021.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the last two are Iron Maiden and
no.
Wolves in the Throne Room.
No.
Didn't think so. So you had 2, I think, or 3.
There you go. I mean, it's like you have whatever that top 10 and all those records and stuff. And I voted for I voted for 2 of them.
Yeah, so, Carcass, Chemist, and Hooded Menace, I think you said.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, it's not, I I mean, the one thing you're saying about the release dates being all September, October, November, and then, on the opposite end of what you're, I guess getting at is like, well, I didn't vote for like most of that stuff. So
maybe it really is rigged.
Yeah, I just don't know.
Yeah. You just don't know.
That'd be funny. Like, we get all the Decibel writers and they're like, I've never heard of those albums you talking about.
We gotta test this. We gotta investigate.
Hilarious.
Now.
Just kidding. Aaliyah, are we running out of time? I just realized what time it is.
I was gonna say it's about all we have time for today.
Cool.
Is there anything else you want to go over really quickly before we wrap things up? Or are we pretty good on the topic?
I don't know. Go listen to Oaf.
Listen to Oaf.
Wait, let me see if I can find the record quickly. Hang on a second.
So we can get a little screen cap of it.
Got it.
Awesome.
There it is.
Boom, baby.
Oh, wow. You got it, Aaliyah?
Nice.
Cool.
This record rules.
I am now going to be listening to it tonight.
It's just dumb, and like I think the guy who does the layout for Metal Hammer playing drums, it's like a Metal Hammer office band or something. I don't know.
I love it. Love it. So we're gonna all listen to that tonight, and you guys should too. Hopefully you heard something that was helpful on this episode. Until next time, make like a bull and throw those horns up.